Welcome to using policy-based management. So what exactly is policy-based management and what exactly does it do? So what policy-based management allows us to do is it allows us to set specific policies to ensure a variety of things are set the way that we as the database administrator want them set. This includes various system configuration options, like if XP command shell should be enabled, if we've got various object naming standards we want to use, like for example, if we've got a policy that says that we do not want any stored procedures named starting with SP underscore, we could set both of these things as policies, as well as a huge number of other items that can all be set as policies. Policies can be applied either in real time or on a fixed schedule. This is going to mostly depend on the kind of policy it is and the version of SQL Server that we're pushing this policy to. The nice thing about policy-based management is it can go down to older versions of SQL Server, but some of those older versions of SQL Server don't support some of the same features, so even though a policy can be applied in real time on a SQL Server 2012 instance, that might not be the case if we push that policy to a SQL Server 2005 instance, for example. Additionally, only some policies are going to be able to be applied to these older versions. And again, this is simply because of the features that are supported by these older versions. There's a few different components that make up policy-based management. The first is facets. The second is conditions, and the third is the actual policy itself. A facet is simply a part of the database engine that can have policies applied to them. These facets are set by Microsoft and cannot be modified by us, the customer or the user of the SQL Server database engine. Conditions are the body of the policy. Conditions can be used for a variety of reasons, both within the definition of the policy and to define what the policy is going to be applied to. The easiest way to think of a condition is like a where clause. You can set a policy where the database name must be like production with a wildcard after it. You can set a policy where stored procedure name is not like SP, meaning that the stored procedure does not start with SP, allowing for the stored procedure name to start with anything other than SP. You can also set a policy where database size is greater than 5,000 megs. Now, this doesn't mean that SQL Server is going to stop the database from growing beyond a certain size. What it does mean is that the SQL Server is going to send off an alert saying that the databases have grown beyond the size set by the policy. A policy fails when one or more objects does not match the condition of that policy. As I said, conditions can be used as filters within the policy, so the policy only applies to specific objects within the database engine. The policies are going to check those conditions against various targets within the database engine. The targets can be all options, or they can be filtered against a condition. This is all going to be defined within the policy. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we get this all set up by looking at a policy on a system. As you can see, we're connected here to a SQL Server 2012 machine running on Windows Server 2012. Policy-based management can be found under the Management branch. Then you see a policy management option available to us. You can see the wide variety of facets that are available on the instance. Now, we can't do anything with these facets. These are simply listed here for your information. We can see the conditions that have been created on the server. In this case, there are none. And we can see the policies that have been created on the server. Again, in this case, there are none. Let's go ahead and start by creating a condition. The condition that we want to set, let's set a database condition. We want to make sure that no databases are named PROD with the % after them. So in this case, we would select the name option in the field. We would set the operator to not like. We would specify PROD in a wildcard. We name the condition, and then we click OK to create the condition. We can now create a policy based on this condition. We name the policy, and we specify a condition that we wish to use. This will check every database against this condition. We can specify, if we wish to, a different target list to check against. We can specify to use this same condition, but that wouldn't be very useful. So in this case, let's create another new condition and call it user databases. We set the field isSystemObject equal to false. And when we execute this, we'll see what comes up. Now, you've probably noticed already, just by setting these conditions, this can get very, very confusing very, very quickly. There ends up being a lot of double negatives involved. So this may or may not evaluate the way I think it does. The easiest way to find out is to simply create the policy and then test the policy. We test the policy by right-clicking on it and clicking Evaluate. In this case, our policy comes back successful. We've got a few databases on the system. None of them are system databases, and none of them are named prod. So our policy evaluates successfully. In summary, policies can be applied in real time or on a fixed schedule. It all depends on what policies you're applying and what version you're applying to. Don't forget, when looking at those facets, those are going to be set by Microsoft, and you're not going to be able to change those. Those conditions that we create are where clauses. Don't forget, they can get very, very confusing very, very quickly. So make sure you always test them. Don't just assume that they're doing what you think they are. You end up having a lot of double negatives involved when trying to get things set up correctly, especially as you're building your first couple of policies. The policies are then going to check the conditions that you've created against the target based on how those conditions are created. For example, if you create a condition on a database name, you're not going to be able to apply that condition against your stored procedures. It will only apply to the same kind of object that's specified by that facet. So database facets are going to create conditions against database objects, which are going to be checked against the actual databases on the system.